As an FBI special agent was my dream job. My whistleblowing was apolitical and in the spirit of upholding my oath. Nonetheless, the FBI cynically elected to close ranks and attack the messenger.
The FBI will crush you. This government will crush you and your family if you try to expose the truth about things that they are doing that are wrong. We are all examples of that.
Joining us now are Steve Friend and Garrett O'Boyle. Thanks for joining us, fellas.
FBI whistleblowers Steve Friend and Garrett O'Boyle both join us now. Gentlemen, so glad to have you on the program. Thank you for your testimony.
We need more folks like you, and I'm sure more people are going to be from your background are going to be giving you guys more intel as you're sharing that with the rest of us. We can kind of see that this is becoming normal for them to be held accountable, because I think especially an institution that we pay their salaries, they need to be held accountable.
I think a lot of people do share our beliefs and convictions. I think they just aren't at the point that Steve and I and others have gotten to. They're too afraid.
Thank you so much for being a guest here on PBD Podcast.
Thanks for having us.
How big is that bloody flag that Steve's got? It's a stone wall of his house. Lots of love, guys. Thanks very much for joining us.
Steve Friend, Garrett O'Boyle, thank you for being with us this morning. More importantly, thank you for speaking out. We appreciate it.
You're in the information age, but facts are in short supply. Reject the noise, ask bold questions, and pursue the truth with FBI whistleblowers and founding suspendables Garrett O'Boyle and Steve Friend. This is the American Radicals Podcast.
It is the American Radicals Podcast on a Monday, brand new time, Monday. It's Veterans Day, November 11th, 2024. We are live streaming to you 0930 at the new show times and the new show days, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 0930, guys. Make a note of it. Be here with us 3 days a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. We're glad that you're with us. If you are, make sure that you follow our channel and smash the like. If you listen to the podcast after the fact, do subscribe there so you get the automatic show updates and drop us a 5-star rating to help us grow. Today, we're going to be talking about how it's time for a change. It's a time for the change for our show. We're excited about that. And it's time for a change in our government. Talk about some of the malfeasance that was brought to bear or revealed over the weekend. I'm sure lots of you are just enjoying your weekend, not knowing that you don't hate your government enough, but we'll bring you back to that sense of realization about how the CDC wanted to put you in a camp, and FEMA definitely doesn't want to help you, but maybe some good news. Looking over the horizon and projecting out what's to come, we have some reasons for hope. So we're going to get to all of that today in this new time slot that we're so excited for. And let's bring on Garrett at GOB Actual, Garrett O'Boyle, my co-host and compatriot. Good to see you, my friend. Happy Veterans Day to you, sir. I'm grateful for you, for your service, and for your friendship.
Yes, Steve. Thank me for my service, would you? I appreciate that.
Are you going to go get the deals now at the stores?
No, it's funny. I was talking to a guy last night. I need to talk to him more, but as you know, and as we've talked about already once this year, nothing like death of a fellow soldier brings those of us who are still alive closer together. But yeah, sadly, another one of those. At least this time, it was natural causes. Although at the tender age of 50, which I'm still a bit shocked in getting over that, because this guy I was pretty close with. He was my platoon sergeant when I went to Afghanistan, and yeah, last time I talked to him, he called me the day we testified. So yeah, so just anyways, I'm talking to this other guy last night, and we mentioned Veterans Day, and I was like, yeah, I am not going to go and get my free waffle at wherever. Like, that's not me, but I appreciate it. And as we've talked about on here before too, I am grateful that I had the opportunity to serve this country. Although I don't recommend it. I don't recommend it to anyone to serve this nation's government in any form. But that's...
We're going to get to some stories that will probably compound on that sentiment, but then maybe reverse. We're actually going to have an optimistic look at the end, which is very much it's an un-American Radicals podcast today, but it's a time for a change. Maybe we could be turning over a new leaf. But first, we got to get our peas, or for us, it's probably our dessert first, because you don't hate your government enough.
This is true.
This was the big story that came out Friday. last week and over the weekend because people kind of just check out of the news. I don't know if it got quite the circulation. I was thinking that this is probably one of the greatest examples ever.
Oh
How much
yeah.
your government hates you. And that came from the Daily Wire exclusive, that FEMA official ordered relief workers to skip houses with Trump signs. So this FEMA supervisor told the workers on her team in this message to, quote, avoid homes advertising Trump as they canvassed Lake Placid, Florida to identify residents who could qualify for federal aid. The supervisor, whose name is Marnie Washington, relayed the message verbally and in a group chat used by the relief team. And then there were photos that were given over to Daily Wire for this piece. And they actually took screenshots of the system used by the relief workers to track the homes that they had visited. And they included things in them that they said, quote, not able to access the property, and with the explanation of Trump sign, no entry per leadership, or per leadership, no stop, Trump flag, or Trump sign, or Trump side, no contact per leadership. All right, Garrett, I've got my feelings about this, and I think you're probably going to share my sentiment of it. Look, this Marnie Washington, she's a vile, vicious, godless communist, Marxist, and good riddance because she was fired over the weekend. But that's very much like the lowest learner. There's just a few rogue actors in that
Yeah.
IRS office, and it's all fine now, right? My problem, though, is not with the godless communist that made it through the vetting system that actually proposed, that actually wants that in there at this point because it's so toxic. It's with the people that did the CYA that went into the system and said, per leadership, I'm just following orders.
Mm-hmm.
When in the course of human events has just following orders that you know to be illegal, unethical, immoral, unreasonable, a violation of your oath of office, when has that ever gone good for you?
Never once. Never ever, Steve. Never ever in the history of humankind has just following orders when you know they're wrong, whether they're lawful or not. Because that's the thing I love. I mentioned one of these houses nearby recently that had the makeshift or the homemade Harris Waltz signs and talking about convicted felon. You can't blah all this, and it's like, well, when the law is being weaponized or when the law on the books is immoral or wrong, you don't follow it. And civil disobedience, call it what you want, you have a higher authority that you're going to have to account to. And in this case, dude, I mean, we talk about it all the time. We talk about it all the time. It's our Holocaust Memorial Museum trip, wrapped up in one FEMA story, because this is what humans do. They lean into their cowardice and, well, my boss told me I had to. Not good enough. It's not good enough. And in America, well, allegedly, we have the guardrails in place where when you resist tyranny like this, when you resist wrongdoing like this, you're supposed to be okay. You're supposed to come out on top. In a true system, you should get promoted. You should be the one in this woman's position and she should be fired. And thankfully she was fired in this case, but she wouldn't have been if this story would not have broke. I'm confident of that much because we've seen it enough ourselves in our time in government that most of the time these problem people just get moved around. Well, at this point now you have an infestation, and that's what it is. And you have you have Donald Trump, who just won the presidency. I mean, really quite historic, to be frank. There's no other way around explaining it other than it being historic. But when you have these government agencies, and it's not just FEMA and it's not just the FBI, it's all of them writ large, are infested like this with people who hate you. So they hate more than half the people of the country at this point, because and I know not everybody votes, not everybody who's eligible votes, but it's a good enough sample set to say that over half the country are hated by the civil servants, quote unquote civil servants.
Maybe I think this audience probably gets the visceral reaction that you and I are expressing here. But let's just make a similar parallel comparison to how bad this is. You and I were both uniformed police officers. Let's just say that we were dispatched to a domestic violence assault. But before we went there, at roll call that evening, the sergeant in charge of the shift commander, gets up there and says, if they have a Harris Walls sign in their yard, you are not to respond to any calls for assistance. And then in the CAD system, because the laptop that you have in your patrol car, for those not tracking, because they have that, you got dispatched to that call and then just cleared it, handled by officer, but put a note, per my sergeant, I did not go to the domestic violence call that I was dispatched to. Would you not be up for some sort of criminal referral at that point?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Because especially with a call like that, it's mandatory. You don't even have discretion here. If the criteria for the crime is met, you must make an arrest. By and large, cops in this country have discretion, and they should be using it wisely. They should be using their skills of discernment and judgment to make a wise decision on whether or not to write the ticket, on whether or not to put the handcuffs on. But sometimes the government takes that discretion away. And in domestic abuse, I think that's somewhat appropriate, because you're going to run into those guys who don't want to make the arrest. They don't want to write the report. They don't want to do anything. Well, in this case, they don't have the option now, because if they don't, they're breaking the law. And now you're just going to clear it. You're just going to clear the call because of politics and because my boss told me to. It's absurd. It would be wholly absurd if a cop was sent to a call and saw the sign himself and then just, mailed it in and wrote some type of fake update and didn't do their due diligence as they're supposed to. But even worse is the supervisor telling you got to avoid the Harris Watts. It's just, this is where we are. This is where we are. This is what we live in, where the government is telling a quote unquote leader in government is telling other people in government, don't service those people. Don't do your job for those people, because they have been othered. They are the Untermensch of American society, even though we're the majority now. Okay, that doesn't make sense.
Well, that's a very good term, Untermensch, for the next story that I have from the Brownstone Institute, because the difference between a fact and a conspiracy theory is somewhere between 6 to 36 months. Depends on whether or not Elon Musk has taken over a social media company at this point, for how quickly that information comes out. So from the Brownstone Institute, the CDC planned quarantine camps nationwide. Brownstone Institute is not like Gateway Pundit, by the way.
Yeah.
Like, this is a actual like think tank organization, and there are serious people that do serious research there. But a couple of excerpts here. The CDC issued a plan for establishing nationwide quarantine camps. People were to be isolated, given only food and some cleaning supplies. They would be banned from participating in religious services. The plan included contingencies for preventing suicide. There were no provisions made for any legal appeal or even the right to legal counsel. So who, pray tell, were these people to be rounded up? They're the, quote, older adults and people of any age who have serious underlying medical conditions. Who determined it? Well, public health authorities, of course. The CDC explained that physically separating high-risk individuals from the general population allows authorities to prioritize the use of the limited available resources at its disposal. They just have to make those tough decisions, Garrett. And this is all pretty clearly related to the coronavirus, when the guardrails were lifted off of doing anything that was deemed to be too hard. There was no political leader in any position of authority who was saying, I think that's a little too extreme. 19 masks, really, guys? I think that's just an overkill. Oh, no. We had to make sure that we just came up with illogical things to do. Like, you should walk one way down grocery store aisles and 6 feet. That sounds reasonable to us. Wear 2 masks on your face. And this Brownstone Institute piece, I think it's important because they are serious. They went to the Wayback Machine, because there's not just conspiracy theories, and they went to the CDC's actual website and got this information from them. This is it. The interim operational considerations for implementing the shielding approach to prevent COVID-19 infections in humanitarian settings. So it was real. You don't hate your government enough. It hates you. You're the Untermensch, and they see no process that you're owed, because they're just going to put you into a camp.
It's really horrifying that it's the people. It's the people in the CDC. It's the people in the FBI. These institutions have thousands of employees, and you're not getting anybody coming forward to say, this is wrong. this sounds like internment camps just for the people who are, who are marked by being unmarked, so to speak, in this case, because you didn't get the jab, you didn't get the Fauci ouchie, you didn't get the juice because of whatever reason. This morning I saw a story. Some woman is set to get $12 million from Blue Cross Blue Shield because she stuck it out. She sued. They never addressed her religious accommodation. They fired her. And I was, quite frankly, I was stunned. And this probably goes to one of your positive examples, because this is what you're getting from government. And they're going to say, wow, we didn't know what we didn't know back then. I don't care. It's not appropriate in the alleged land of the free for the CDC to be setting up camps because they don't like your belief system, whatever that is, whatever that includes. In this case, it's some type of hesitancy for an untested vaccine. It's some type of religious reason for not wanting to get it. It's some type of political reason or affiliation for not wanting to get it. Whatever it may be, your government should not be setting up camps to put you in.
And the problem being the people, I think, is perfect, because it made me think of this. And you can get fired up about one thing, but in true AMRAD fashion, I'm gonna get fired up about the exact opposite. But this was a poll that was done, and the top line number, or top line term, says Democrats, January of 2022, and asked them various questions about their perspectives on their fellow citizens' hesitancy to get vaccinated. So, what percentage of Democrats in 2022 wanted to fine the unvaccinated? Well, it was north of half of them. They wanted, almost 60% of them wanted to lock you in your home. They wanted, about somewhere around 45 to 50% wanted to put you in those CDC camps, quarantine camps, if you weren't able to get the gene juice. A quarter, about a third, wanted to take your children away from you, or just fine and imprison you. Half wanted to put you in jail. And look, the Democrats are.
That last one is just fine and imprison critics of the vaccine. So, dude, oh man.
I mean, it's a religion. They're Marxist, godless communists. So they hate you. They want to blast you in the face, because that's why they want to take the Second Amendment away. But I actually want to look at, as long as we're having a conversation about the people being the problem, I want to look at the red bars here.
No kidding.
The people who purport to be on our side, right? The silent majority that finally was woken up a week ago on election day. 2 years ago, actually it's closer to 3 at this point, 1 in 5 wanted to fine you if you didn't get the jab. How many of them wanted to take your children away? 1 in 20. So if you're at a club event, at your next GOP event, look around the room and realize that 1 in 20 of those people wanted to take your kids away from you.
Yeah.
More than 1 in 10 wanted to fine you for criticizing the vaccine. The people are the problem.
Mm-hmm.
And the people have to be the solution to a tyrannical government that is going to say that, well, FEMA is not going to provide any assistance to you because of who you vote for, or they're going to construct a concentration camp and give you no due process as they send you off in the trains to that location. If the people are going to be the source of the correction, then we need to do some introspection before we assign all the blame to the government. And I'm perfectly fine giving lots of blame to the government. I think that's very American to hate the government. But it's also, it's supposed to be the way that the pyramid is structured, the way that the chain of command works in our system of government is the people are in charge. The question has always been, can man rule himself? And if half of the Marxists want to take your kids away from you, I don't know if the answer to that is something I'm encouraged by.
Yeah, likewise. It's as horrifying as those blue numbers are on that questionnaire. It's equally disturbing how at least the red side isn't zero across the board, because it goes to what we've talked about from MTSU's First Amendment Center recently with their poll that they did about how 65% or 60 or 65% of Americans think the First Amendment is a good thing until they realize that their opponents have the First Amendment as well. I really struggle to understand this, and long have, even well before I was in law enforcement or the military, even just growing up as a teenager, I always leaned towards just live and let live by and large. There's going to be different ideas and theories and opinions, but if you're living within reason, just live and the government can stay out. And if I have an opposing idea to you, well, we don't need to be friends. That's fine. We can carry on. I've worked with many coworkers who don't believe the same way I believe about God, about politics, and we've gotten along just fine. Some of them I was friends with and still am to this day. I especially think of some former Army guys where we couldn't have been more opposite in a lot of our worldview, and yet we were sometimes the best of friends. And now we're in this era where it's like you just got to kill your enemy. That's what it seems like. Put them in a prison camp, take their kids, lock them up. Okay, well, at what point is it just get the noose, put them in the gallows?
I can't come up with anything, because that to me is it's always for us on the show. We always seem to go back to the coronavirus, not specific to the coronavirus. I just think that it was this great sorting mechanism
Mm-hmm.
where people really showed their true colors. The real Karens came out of a lot of people. The some were neighbors element of it, where people were reporting on their fellow citizens because they had the opportunity to do so. When the pressure was there, then people exposed who they really were at that point, and then the government was all too happy to swoop in and seize unprecedented power and make plans to seize more. But fortunately for us, at least, we kind of dodged that bullet of having the quarantine camps. But you
This
never know
time.
what the next
Yeah.
time coming through, especially when your next level or your next generation of people who are matriculating through the ranks of academia, the leaders of tomorrow coming through the Ivy League institutions, just can't even, per reporting from The Blaze. Classes were canceled at Harvard, Penn, Columbia over the Trump win.
No way, dude.
Though several professors at Ivy League schools canceled
Wow.
classes, excused absences, allowed exams to be rescheduled because former President Donald Trump decidedly won the election.
No way, man.
A professor at Columbia University's sister school, I guess that's the safety school, Barnard College, allegedly offered students a chance to replace an exam on which they performed poorly, just as a consolation prize. Like, look, I know we didn't get complete out and out Marxism this time around, but as a consolation prize, you know how we through the great inflation, you still only got a B plus. Why don't we just give you another chance to get an A?
This is I don't know. Maybe there's a lot of different things you can attach the needle on this to, because this isn't just comfort, but that was kind of my first inclination was it's just the comfort that we've had, where these institutions, these once pristine, prestigious, immaculate, difficult, this is what we have now. This is where we're headed. This is where your Harvard and your Columbia grads, who are supposed to be the leaders of the future, or at least they're the ones with the big brain, and they're gonna lead a business or create a business or create some type of cancer breakthrough or whatever, or be some type of powerhouse attorney. They're skipping class because they're in their fields, because their Marxist woman didn't win.
Can we
That's
also put to bed once and for all what I knew at the time was a just complete dog and pony show? And that was when Elise Stefanik marched all those university presidents up to Capitol Hill
yeah.
and challenged them about their policies about people advocating for anti-Semitism, and how none of those women, they were all women, were able to defend those policies, and they wouldn't answer the question about that. And we were like, oh, slay queen Elise Stefanik, she's based. And then it came out that the Harvard president, her name's gay, so that gay Harvard president, she plagiarized her dissertation, right? And that she had to resign in shame over that. And it was the scalp on the wall of the based conservative. We got him. And I'm thinking at the time, do you think that they're going to pick
Right.
anyone else other than that exact same person, just with
Mhm.
a different name?
The
I guess not.
Yeah, absolutely not. They're gonna. It's probably gonna be someone even worse. It's gonna be an up and comer who's even worse than this gay, retarded former president. And it's the other piece of it too is if you actually want to be based, if you want to have some teeth into what you do, you should have stripped all public funding to these institutions. You know they get it because the students are getting it to pay their tuition. Strip it all. And I know they got to pay it back. Like I get it, okay, but any public funding is gone, and you mandate that this type of thing doesn't happen. You get a crying sick day because your politics. No, that's not how this works. That's not how it ever should work. It makes me think of another problem in the broader institutional aspect of America at this point. So you got Harvard, Columbia, those types. On the other hand, you have the prestigious military academies. And that's one of the main problems with the military too is you're getting Marxist people to become your officers. And now that's been going on for quite some time. I still think the majority of your enlisted folk are like they've been for most of American history. They are actually based and they're coming in the military and wanting to do the right thing. And there's out of many of your subsects of society, it was enlisted military people, and there were some commission as well, but by and large enlisted who were like, I'm not getting that vaccine, that quote unquote vaccine. It's another tipping point of society. But now you have West Point grads, Annapolis grads, Air Force Academy grads coming in to the forces and corrupting it for 20 plus years. And then when you get, I think there, what was it, right before the election, like 260 generals or former generals wanted, they signed off on some memo or whatever saying that Kamala Harris had to be the next commander in chief and you could never support a Donald Trump. And it's like, why are all these high ranking officers doing that when by and large the military almost always supports the more conservative candidate? And in this case, when you look back over the last 8 years of what has happened with the military, regardless of if it's a COVID vaccine, spending, what we're doing or sending to Ukraine, to the point where our troops are like, I can't even get proper ammunition for training or for our missions, all sorts of things. And now you're going to have the high ranking elites who've been in the military for 30, 40 years or have recently retired. Now they're going to come out and say, no, Trump's the bad guy, even though he's, dropping bombs on some of the worst people we've been trying to get for a long time, like our buddy Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi.
Died like a dog.
I wouldn't have cried.
Look, Mike Rowe just continues to win. He always wins. Mike Rowe just encouraging people to go into the trades. By the way, the Harvard endowment's somewhere in the area of $53 billion. So maybe they should put that money into the causes that they're pushing out. How about let's have income equality for all? Could you use a little chunk of change from the Harvard endowment there?
Yeah,
Garrett?
I'd take any income at this point, Steve.
All right. So kind of the genesis for today being the time for a change, right? Those are the black pill items. That's the current state of affairs. That's the status quo that we're existing in. We have FEMA that's refusing to help.
I'm gonna check with you guys in the chat because I'm not exactly sure what's happening here. But can you hear me? Let's see. Take over, Garrett. You got this. I see some chats, but I don't. Gob is back. Fed's messing with the show again. Can hear you. It's the Libyans. Okay, we're good. All right. I don't know where we're gonna take this because Steve had the outline, but yeah. So how about this? How about we go to the chat? Let's go to the chat. You guys tell me what you want to talk about for a little bit, and we will see if Steve can rejoin us. Nothing like the time change for for something like this to happen, but 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 yeah, let's see. Yes, bring the spirit gob. Bible verse. Okay, well, I don't have one handy right now, and now I'm scrambling just to think of something to do, but uh I'm hoping Steve will just join join us back. How the deportations will go. I want your opinion on the whip seat. I don't even know what a whip seat is. Praise the Lord that my beard's growing back. Yes. Yes, I'm glad that the beard is growing back as well. It was weird. It was too short. Freestyle. I think I hear Lucy. Yes, Zeb, you do. You did hear Lucy. She was screaming like a baby boar running through the woods. All right, somebody put in Psalm 15. Let me pull that up. We'll go there. We will go to Psalm 15. If I can type faster. What do you guys think happened, Steve? You think a hurricane hit, or do you think the feds got to him? All right. Okay, we're going to pop Psalm 15 up here. It says, "Who shall dwell on your holy hill?" A psalm of David. "O Lord, who shall sojourn in your tent? Who shall dwell on your holy hill? He who walks blamelessly and does what is right and speaks truth in his heart, who does not slander with his tongue and does no evil to his neighbor, nor takes up a reproach against his friend, in whose eyes a vile person is despised, but who honors those who fear the Lord, who swears to his own hurt and does not change, who does not put out his money at interest and does not take a bribe against the innocent. He who does these things shall never be moved." That is a good psalm. Thanks to whoever that was who put that in there. I appreciate that. I suppose while we're here, we've got a couple Rumble rants. One from Mahal E52 says, "Perpetual thanks to you all who served and sacrificed." Thanks, Mahal. Appreciate that. And then we got one from Peaches 62, which anytime I hear the word peaches, I think of the Mario Brothers movie where Bowser is like, "Peaches, peaches, 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 peaches." But they say, "Congratulations and Godspeed on the new time." Well, thank you for that. Hopefully the new time slot will work out well. And we'll see the new time and day slot, I suppose. I thought it was going swimmingly so far until this catastrophe that happened with Steve, which I think he's okay. He said internet went down, rebooting. So maybe Steve will be back with us in a little bit. Oh, we got another Rumble rant from DL Mega. "Good to see your mug live." Yes, yes, it's good to be live and lively on a Monday. But yeah, good to be here. I'm trying to think of if there's any stories I wanted to bring. I mentioned that one about the COVID vaccine. I won't hold my breath. Some of you may know this, but Kyle, Seraph, and I, we are still in a lawsuit regarding that. And these things, they just take so long and so much time and effort. But we'll see where they go. There's been some wins in that regard recently. So yeah, Steve is back.
I've been resurrected. I apologize.
I
The
didn't come
internet
up
went
with
down.
anything. Oh, I could have done a commercial. I could have done an ad read at least, but I didn't. I just basically
Filibustered enough. I appreciate you. You're a trained broadcapper, but I'm glad to be back. So before I was unceremoniously cut off, I wanted to talk about how we're sort of transitioning away from the bad to the good, right? How it's time for a change today. So I had a couple of good examples, I think. that wanted to get your thoughts on, because this is definitely worth bringing to the fold. We have one, this judge who is a Trump appointee, comes from the Epoch Times, strikes down a federal rule protecting illegal immigrants married to U.S. citizens. So this judge's name is J. Campbell Barker. He wrote that the Department of Homeland Security lacks the authority to grant parole in place to illegal immigrants or to deem parole in place as used there to parole into the United States. So basically, and we've talked about this before, and and you and I have both become acquainted with J.J. Carroll. He's like a major expert on this matter. And that is that the Department of Homeland Security under the Biden administration has abused the term parole. Parole being, in the law enforcement, criminal justice perspective, of we let you out of jail, good behavior, as long as you don't reoffend and you are passing drug tests and getting a job and checking in with your parole officer, then you don't have to go back to jail. Parole in the immigration sense is very narrow, very finite amount of time. We let somebody who's not a citizen into the country for a specific purpose, like testify at a trial. You come here for that week, and then we physically bring you back to the border and wave bye-bye. If you come back in, you're an illegal alien. But what's going on under the Biden administration is they've said, like, we're just going to give parole to hundreds of thousands of people. And that includes people who get married to an illegal alien. So, or the illegal alien is now paroled in place for forever. Well, now we have a judge who says, well, no, you can't do that. My issue with that is I wish he'd done it earlier, but I think it's definitely trending in the right direction, right? And that also compounds on itself of, you talk about experiencing the ills or the negative aspects to what you've done to yourself. And I saw this the very end of last week on Friday, relates to Eric Adams, mayor of New York City, who,
He's the best mayor ever, Steve. Didn't you know?
well, he's a great businessman. He knows how to manage money, or he's facing criminal indictment and he's really aggravated the voter base there. Well, not necessarily the voter base, the jury pool, shall we say. And he thinks, all right, well, I can't continue to support my lobbyist friends who contribute back to my campaign by saying, let's put the illegals into hotels with government money, or let's feed them with government money. And then you can, again, give me the kickback. That's also angering the New York City citizens. So maybe we should stop the whole, we're going to give them these debit cards to come in and feed themselves. So, Garrett, let's see if this would help the O'Boyle family very much. This is a pilot program that New York City implemented where they gave preloaded debit cards to illegal aliens who they were already also putting up in hotels to live. And they were getting somewhere in the area of $350 a week for food, because they said it was going to save money, and then they'd be able to buy their own food. I'm sure they're not buying any like booze or Doritos or anything like that.
Sure.
And then the complaint was for these 2,600 families at a cost of $3.2 million, that the food wasn't very culturally sensitive either. So they gave them these preloaded debit cards. So $350 a week, that's $50 a day. That go pretty far for you and the O'Boyle family, wouldn't it?
For sure. I mean, I bet we're hard pressed to even go through $50 a day now. And there's how many of us? Six of us total. And I know, especially Lucy is little. She doesn't eat a ton, but everybody else, even the kids, they eat, yes, they're smaller meals than adults would eat, but it's still, come mealtime, it's a production just about every meal, because you've got to feed them all. But still, I bet you $50 would carry us through at least into day 2, because we we buy the yellow labeled meat, and we're not buying culturally appropriate foods, because what is that? I'll eat it all.
Tortillas and cheese, let's be
Yeah.
honest.
I'll eat those. I'll eat Chinese food and whatever else. I like it all, but it's, what this makes me think of again is the comfort problem. So now, not only are we so comfortable as Americans, we now want illegal immigrants. And so let's call them what they are. They're not here legally. They're illegal immigrants. We want them to be ultra comfortable too, to the point where we're going to sacrifice people who actually put into the common good by being a taxpayer. So if you're paying taxes, you're a productive member of society. Otherwise, you wouldn't be paying taxes because you wouldn't have a job, or you wouldn't be making. Not that people who don't make enough to pay taxes aren't productive in their own right, but by and large, you're just draining on society to essentially give to people who are breaking the law. It it makes no logical sense, and it shouldn't, to any nation or to any person in any nation who thinks that their nation should continue to be a nation, which includes having their own laws. Like, you can't come here illegally.
And I mean, just bring it to a more granular level, right? If you had an intruder in your house, break in, that's a burglary, right? Or at
Mm-hmm.
least it's a trespass. If they're taking stuff, then it's a burglary. And you caught them in your refrigerator, and and then they were saying, "Well, your food selection sucks. You have to do better." Oh, and by the way, I'm taking over the guest room in your house. You have to give that to me. That's what we've done as a country.
Mm-hmm. And I'd like to know about these debit cards. $350. So they're calling them a debit card. So that makes me think it's just loaded with cash. Or is it like an EBT card, or
Where there's some sort of restraints, you can't just go to like a porn shop.
right? Because if it's just a debit card, which I tend to lean that it is just a debit card, because that's easier. That's just easier to be like, just get
And,
prepaid cards and
and you know as well as I do that what winds up happening is they sell their benefits
right,
for
right,
cash,
right.
right? Because it's
Yeah,
not their money. So if you know if you're really actually interested in buying your family food, I'll sell you my $350 debit card for $250 cash that I can
yep,
go take to the porn store, right?
yep,
And
yep.
that's
And
what goes on. That's the corruption and the fraud
yes,
that goes on. But I guess Mayor Adams came to the realization that the jury pool for the federal trial is going to be really angry at him. So he should probably take measures to bring that to an end. But whatever the motivations are, time for a change, steps in the right direction. Now, at the federal level, we have the incoming president-elect, Donald Trump, has been putting out a series of these video statements on what he wants to do. And I found it a little bit encouraging. I thought he was a little bit surprised to actually win in 2016. He was kind of like, really?
which
Okay.
he's
This
gotta
time.
he's gotta be surprised this time too, right? Or are we just that black? Or maybe just me? Am I just that black pilled that I was like, no way, no chance. Trump doesn't even want to win. He just wants to sell NFTs and Bibles and coins and shoes, and start like a TV network when he loses. That's kind of where I was at, and I don't know.
It worked out differently, and
Yeah.
he does seem to have a plan for that, right? And I saw this. It was like an 8-minute video, but there was an article that sort of did a summation of it, and it talks about Donald Trump wanting to dismantle the deep state, the administrative state, and some of the steps. And I'll tell you why. This is why I was really encouraged, because there's actual language in what he was saying that I know serious people have used. So I think that he might be surrounded by people that are serious people when it comes to that. But let's see if it is time indeed for a change, and we're going to bring about the end, and we're going to dismantle the administrative state. Here are 10 points, and these are actual quotes. I don't think I think they are quotes. I tried not to like bring in like too much of the Trumpish stuff because only he's good at that. But just the Joe Friday, just the facts. We'll run through them, Garrett, and see if any of these you have a outright problem with, or you have a question about, the legality or ability to bring about. So immediately reissue an executive order to restore presidential authority to remove government employees that Trump views as rogue bureaucrats.
Oh man, I mean, should I wait till the end? Because
You can interject
right off
anytime
the
you want.
bat, I'm like, yes. How did that ever even go away? I mean, that should be that. Again, it goes to a nation of laws. I know it's not a law per se, but if you work in government and the chief executive deems that you're some type of rogue agent, and now there's got to be a way to conduct this reasonably. Because I'm not saying we need to kick every Democrat out of government, but these rogue ones, I think of. I don't know if I've ever mentioned her on the air, but I will now. Layla Blake is her name. Layla Blake. Purple hair. She was the acting chief security officer when I arrived in Virginia on September 26th of 2022. She's the one who essentially read me the riot act and had me removed. And I know in a lot of ways she was just doing what she was told. She was just following orders like we talked about earlier. But I would tend to think that if you're that brazen to show up in your FBI duty with your purple hair, I'm pretty sure we can guess how anti-Trump you are, and maybe somebody like that needs to be removed. Not just personally for her role in what she did to me, but what other nefarious type of activities are these people engaging in?
And here's I'm gonna skip down to one because this is what got me excited. Totally reform the FISA courts.
Yep.
Like I would get rid of the FISA courts, but if you've read, and we're acquainted with Kash Patel, if you've read his book Government Gangsters, he has an entire section in there about his suggestions to reform the FISA courts. So I think Kash Patel might be putting and percolating some ideas out there. And what Kash recommends in that is there should be a defense component, because you have these rotating judges that don't know what they're doing as they just get cycled in temporarily to the FISA courts.
Yeah.
So the prosecutors kind of roll them.
Mm-hmm.
And if you had a defense component in there that could then argue, well, this is First Amendment protected activity, there would be sort of a balance there to be better, which I thought was a good idea by Kash. Now, establish a Truth and Reconciliation Commission to declassify and publish all documents on deep state's buying, censoring, and corruption. As long as the Epstein list is in there, that's a yo from me.
Mm-hmm.
They want to launch a major crackdown on government leakers, not whistleblowers. If you go to the media, Garrett, is that protected whistleblowing activity?
No, not for us, or not for it. Yeah.
So doing that theoretically could probably justify having your security clearance suspended.
Right.
But if it were later adjudicated that you didn't do that, you should probably have it restored, right?
You would imagine, and especially when it turns out that they knew it wasn't you before you even showed up at your new place of duty, and then had purple-haired Layla Blake suspend you anyways at the behest of Jennifer Lee Moore.
And part of that, though, in reality, I mean, we're tongue in cheek, but part of not revealing information to the media, you can bring protected disclosures to the inspector general, to people up your chain of command, all in-house for them to adjudicate properly. But we sign documents, these basically NDAs, right, that are supposed to be binding. Could you not then have a similar situation where you sign documents as a condition of employment for one of these other points that was part of the dismantling of the deep state? And that would be to ban federal bureaucrats from taking jobs at companies that they deal with and that they regulate. Very much like the FBI, Elvis Chan liaises with social media. And then once you know it, he retires and then gets a job there, right?
Yep.
That would ban that. I think that that's probably a good thing. If you want to actually do this job properly, then that's going to have strings attached to it. And I don't think that it's a large logical jump to make to then say that it's going to restrict your ability to have future job opportunities. Very much like it opens your ability up to have other job opportunities that other people can't have. If you have there's certain jobs in the private sector you can't have if you don't have a security clearance. That entitles you to that. But at the same time, you're not going to be able to go work for Facebook if you were dealing with Facebook. I mean, pretty simple.
Yeah, it seems like anybody with a logical train of thought, which should be pretty much any adult who can function at this point, it wouldn't. I don't know how you wouldn't want this type of guardrail for government employees, especially when they're connected to private entities to such a degree. We have this. It's like a conglomerate at this point with the amount of government. It is interference oftentimes, but it's not always interference. But with the amount that government, FBI, CIA, NSA, whatever, especially with social media, or with, well, I guess social media is the correct term. YouTube, all of it, the broad nexus of social media. Government is inundating them daily with requests and subpoenas and concerns and this and or even citizens. They report the Facebook post to the government. So there needs to be some very dark, bright line, very dark, bright. That's ridiculous.
Defined.
Very defined lines on the government's actions and roles that they have with these companies. I don't know how anybody wouldn't think it's a good idea to have that cooling off period, other than the people who are set to benefit the most from it. Oh, I'm about to retire. I'm gonna go get a job at Twitter or Facebook. No, go get a different job.
Well, and that is a great segue to who are these people that are trying to get those next jobs. So we've got 3 final pieces we can kind of like churn through, and they're all about our ex-girlfriend. But so that's what we're going to talk about here. Carrie Pickett brought 2 stories recently to the forefront, and one of them just FBI brass stunned and shell shocked over the Trump reelection.
Are they though? They probably are, because they were interfering to try to ensure.
Like, what do you mean our election interference didn't work this time? Damn, we're 1 and 2.
Yep. If they didn't focus so much on DEI and 30 by 30 and all that, maybe it would have worked.
I think that they're going to be sprinting for the exits right now. I think there's several dozen individuals that are planning on dropping paper and trying to get those jobs. Hopefully, though, if we're going to rid the deep state, what they haven't taken consideration is the fact that your security clearance can be revoked after you leave, even if you don't have the security clearance anymore, right? Like if you leave, you no longer have a need to know, your security clearance is kind of like over, but then they can, over the top of that, do a revocation so that you can't have a job. So I'd like to see that happen, which would be funny. And then I just appreciated the humor that this one agent, this is just so FBI agent thinks he's funny. Quote, you know, the fit test, how they let the standards slack on the fit test? Well, everyone's going to have a real problem when they're running for the door.
Oh, God. Please put that one, Carrie. Put that one in there.
Wait, let me rephrase it. But I think that another one that was extremely positive, and I'm excited to see, because I heard the exact opposite from people in the field, but it hasn't filtered down from headquarters yet. Also from the Washington Times, from Carrie Pickett, FBI winding down investigations of J6 that are still in the pipeline. Agency sources are telling Carrie. So according to sources at the FBI, those cases are dead. They're not going anywhere. They're dead. They're going to be closed because they still have some in the pipeline, this source told her.
So why does that sound to me like political persecution? I thought the FBI wasn't supposed to do that type of thing, Steve.
Precisely. I mean, these are the people that you would presume are not the major offenders, right?
Yeah.
And you and I were both told we don't investigate misdemeanors off the jump. If it gets pled down later, that's not on you.
Yeah. And that's the pivotal piece here, is these cases should have never been brought in the first place. And both of us have said, and all of the suspendables have said time and time again, that there are people and were people on January 6th who should have been investigated, who should have had charges brought. And that is the absolute worst of the worst actors on that day. That's not these. And yet you have agents who are bringing them anyways. Oh man, it's so very frustrating, because it really was not that hard to be apolitical in your duty as an FBI agent. And I've talked about that murder for hire case before. That had its roots in anti-abortion extremism. We all know where I stand. We all know where I stand on that. Does that mean you don't work your ass off to investigate a potential murder for hire just because you disagree with the premise, just because you disagree with the stance of some of the people involved? No, you still work the case, and you work it as best you can, because guess what? Murder is wrong too. And yeah, I still believe that baby murder is wrong. That doesn't mean I don't do my job appropriately. And here you have all of these agents who just following orders, or the worst ones, they're eager to do it because the J6 Untermensch, I get to lock them up for a misdemeanor. I can't wait. I get to write the bullet point in my FD 954, which is the internal resume that you have to fill out when you want to try to promote. I can't wait. I can't wait to talk about how I destroyed the lives of all these Untermensch because I'm such a great FBI agent and employee, and I'm going to promote. And that's what happens. The tyrants end up promoting by and large.
They've charged over 1,500 people. 570 are contending with felony charges. So if, in fact, this is true and these cases are dead and they're just not going to pursue them or close them out, I can't wait for that lawsuit from all the people that were not dropped, the cases that went through that had the exact same charges and the exact same circumstances, because 1,500 cases, there's a lot of similar circumstances for a lot of the people there. So why did they get charged and others not? That seems like your discretion there wasn't consistent from a law enforcement agency that's just supposed to be about gathering the facts. So you're going to have lawsuits, you're going to have ability to appeal sentences, and that's if Trump doesn't come in and just issue a blanket pardon, which in fact he should do. And I know there's dirtbags, I know there's people that did bad stuff, but the process was completely manipulated. If the government screws up the process, the case is lost. That's the way our system works.
And that's how it should work. That's how it would work in any free society, allegedly free.
All right, last one, and just it was a quick note because it made me laugh and smile. And that was it was reported over the weekend from Leading Report. Breaking: FBI Director Chris Wray is reportedly expected to step down before Trump's inauguration. I think he doesn't want to get the James Comey treatment where he gets canned while mid-trip, right? And has to fly back coach.
Yeah. Wait, I got fired?
I think from what I heard about the story, and I don't know if it's true or if it's just urban legend, is that James Comey was giving a speech at some FBI location, and on the TV screens in the office, there was the chyron of Trump fires FBI director. That's how he actually learned that he'd been fired. And then he had to, I don't know, find his way back home after that, which couldn't happen to a worse guy. So I was definitely down for the approval of.
Yeah.
So definitely time for a change. It looks like there could be some reasons to be optimistic, but if anything, I think that Donald Trump's proven himself to be very much a populist, responsive to people. If he's doing things that are good, that you think are good, and definitely give him some positive feedback. And if he's making decisions or empowering things that the base does not approve of, they should be vocal about that. And he's nimble enough to pivot and do that. So it was time for a change. The people voted a week ago, and I think there's actually some reason to be hopeful. I saw before I was when I got back on that you had done your bibble today, Garrett. I don't know if you have any extra thoughts, but I wanted to make sure we thank some of the people on this new time slot. We got some Rumble rants came in. I think it's definitely worth throwing them up there.
Yeah, it was somebody in the chat because I was kind of scrambling. I'm like, oh, I don't know what to do because I'm not really a podcaster. But they said read Psalm 15, and I was like, all right, I will.
You're a populist. Way to go. All right, so we got 3 big, nice Rumble rants today. Mayhow E52, perpetual thanks yous to all who served and sacrificed because today is Veterans Day. Appreciate that. Peaches 62, congratulations and Godspeed on the new time. And reminder, folks, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 0930 is the new time slot.
Peaches.
DL Maga, thank you, brother. Good to see your mug live. Well, wish we could see yours, but we appreciate the Rumble rant nonetheless. And thank you again for joining us today on the program. I have a palate cleanse. We're going to go back to the team that just wins the internet all the time. And that's the Babylon Bee. They put out if women had the same rights as guns, because there was a lot of pushback especially after this election, that we just hate women, right? That they just don't have the same rights. Well, what if they actually did pass a legislation that said women and guns have the same rights?
This is already funny.
We're here live at a local protest where a bunch of emotional women are upset about something. What else is new, am I right, guys? Let's see what set them off this time. What's up, Toots?
A woman should have all the same rights as guns, and we're not leaving until we get them. Yeah!
So you want women to have the exact same rights as guns?
Yeah!
And you won't leave until the government agrees to that?
Yeah. No! No, I would say no, like we're not gonna leave until we get them.
I'm saying we're not leaving. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So, yeah, no.
Woman, there's a woman over there!
What?
There's a woman outside! All right, miss, you're coming with me.
I'm sorry, officer, what is this about?
Women now have the same rights as a gun, and here you are outside, unregistered, unconcealed. Where is your owner?
No one's gonna put up with this. This is ridiculous.
Don't make this harder than it already is.
Hey, I'm gonna get a lawyer. This is insane. I have rights according to the Constitution.
That's right. You have the same rights as a gun. It's the law.
Babylon Bee.
I love it.
So
Dude, they win the internet daily.
every day. So that's going to do it for us today on the new time slot, guys. We'll be back with you Wednesday. Hopefully my internet will stay up the whole time. But as always, appreciate Garrett's ability to be nimble and just churn out a couple of minutes there for me.
It was horrible. I'm
Appreciate
gonna start having a story or two like on the side that
keep them in reserve. You never know when the FBI, because we did it during business hours this time as opposed to earlier, might have been involved. But
how many thumbs downs do we have? That's how you know if our SecD minders are present.
counter that. Lots of thumbs up if you haven't already. All right, guys. Thank you for joining us today. And we'll see you next time. Rumble.com/amradpod. Have a great day.
You've been listening to the voice of the Suspendables on the American Radicals podcast. Follow us on rumble.com/amradpod.